This is Coda Radio, episode 571 for May 21st, 2024. Hey friend, welcome into Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the world of technology. My name is Chris, and over there charging his energy weapon, also known as a booma, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Me so ready for you, API.
You're really getting ready and hunkered down over there.
I am. I feel like I am deluged by AI-powered incompetent robots.
I mean, it has been 2 weeks deep of back-to-back AI announcements from Google and OpenAI, and Microsoft is going on right now. I think Sam Altman's up on the Microsoft stage right now as we record at Microsoft Build. We're going to have to get into this. You know, I think it's not good for the show, but I think it is what it is, and we're going to have to talk about this today. Looking back at all of these, the Google I.O. event seems like the sleepiest, low energy of them all that nobody's talking about the most. It just seems like OpenAI's event, everybody's still talking about it even today. Microsoft Build, there's a bunch of hardware announcements. They're shipping features in Windows. People are going to be talking about it for weeks. Google I.O. came and went. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you're getting Google Photo Search better. You know, you're going to have Gemini and more things. I don't know. It's not clear to me what the takeaway is even for developers from Google I.O.
It really seems strange. I was expecting, well, I shouldn't say expecting. I was a little disappointed that it felt like it was a show mainly for Wall Street, right? To say we did not get, jumped by OpenAI in a dark alley. And not a whole lot for devs. I was struggling this morning as I was going through the doc. There's really like hand wavy stuff on like AI implementations in Android that you can maybe hook into, but there's nothing clear. Gemini is, I actually pay for their Gemini service because I'm kind of doing it for the show. Like I pay for OpenAI, I pay for Gemini, and I've tried some of the on-system ones like Llama. And I mean, it's not, I can't say that it's bad. I don't know. I almost feel like they're in a strategy tax where it's really like so tied into Google services. And I haven't found like the killer use case for Gemini yet.
I agree with your take that it was more of a presentation for Wall Street and other businesses than it was for developers or users. And I just wonder, okay, so watching what Microsoft has talked about, OpenAI, what Google has talked about, I've been reflecting on this interview I watched with NYU professor Gary Marcus, and he's a big AI skeptic. It's almost to a parody. But in an interview with CNBC, which I'll link in the show notes, he makes the claim that in the last year and change, there's been $50 billion invested in quote-unquote AI. And so far, there seems to be around $3 billion in revenue on the books. So $50 billion invested, $3 billion in revenue. And what doesn't seem to compute or add up to me is we already seem to be, before we've even really had material products actually penetrate the market, it's already a race to the bottom. Alibaba just announced they're slashing their fees up to 97%. Google's going to roll out AI answers and generation stuff in Google Search for free. OpenAI announced that the free accounts get more good stuff. They're keeping the subscription, but the free accounts get more good stuff. We see the Microsoft news coming today that we'll talk more about. It seems like it's already a race to the bottom by the biggest companies that can just dump billions of dollars into this. Already, it feels like the beginning of this. I'm already not seeing where there's room for the small guy, for the small business, for the small developer. I don't know. Do you feel like looking at it where you're at now, after these last couple of weeks and where Alice kind of fits in, do you think the situation's better or worse for, say, Alice and you?
Alice in particular, it's worse, right? We do have a ChatGPT integration, but a big fear that I have is, I don't know if you know this, Chris, people don't like to pay a lot for things from small vendors, generally, especially if they perceive it as packaged software. So I'm really concerned that basically nominal fee I pay OpenAI for the, couple of customers that actually use the OpenAI stuff is going to skyrocket when they decide that they can't keep burning money. You put in a good stat in our chat earlier, 50 billion spent, 3 billion made. I mean, the numbers are not pretty at all.
If it's true, if that number is legit, yeah, that seems pretty bad. Yeah.
Right. It's weird because Alice in particular is basically where it's being used a lot for report automation and data migrations for folks who have legacy needs, right, and proprietary systems they may have had built years ago. So that's like a weird niche that if we weren't a very small company, based in Florida, New Jersey, would not be sustainable, right? Just wouldn't scale.
Yeah.
And actually doing the YC application kind of made me see like this is not going to be like a SaaS product that makes sense, because nobody who signs up for it is able to just use it out of the box. We have to do like a consulting customization. And it makes sense, right? If you have your custom ERP system that was written, 10 years ago, well, there is no public API for that. We have to do the work. We have to get the data. We have to sometimes sync the data back. I mean, this is maybe too much specifically about Alice. I'll put it to you this way. I put a lot of energy into the OpenAI ChatGPT integration, and I wish I had done something else.
Okay.
Because it did not sell. Got a lot of clicks, got a lot of meetings. But what it turned out in practical terms, the clients for Alice are multi-generational businesses. They're boring, right? They're not boring, not in a bad way, but they're like construction companies, they're produce companies, they're multi-generational farms, things like that. Companies who repair jet engines using old-fashioned ERP systems. These are not folks who, one, want their data to be randomly on OpenAI servers, and two, they have very specific, very bespoke needs. That is, frankly, why they're reaching out to an ISV. So.
Just looking back at announcements that people are still talking about and the ones that people have completely already forgotten about, we're still seeing ripples of information come out of the Meta Quest Horizon OS announcement where they're opening up the Quest devices. And when you and I first saw that news, we said, well, this is going to make the Quest the obvious choice for any kind of enterprise application that needs VR or AR. And maybe it's not the Quest 3, maybe it's like, 2 or 3 iterations from now, but when you open up the platform, you allow additional app stores and side-loading applications as a matter of policy and hardware choice. That tends to work best in the enterprise. But then you caught this story, too, that Microsoft has announced a preview of an API that basically seems like a way to bring Windows applications into the Quest headset.
Yeah. I saw this earlier today. I just put it in the doc. So, wow, Chris, excellent eye. That's the beauty of real-time document sharing, right?
Yeah.
Now, I should do a little disclosure here. I have often jumped early on Microsoft SDKs. Looking at you, Metro. I want my $40,000 back. And Microsoft Bot Framework, and I just got to stop doing this. But this time will be different somehow, because I think the power of the Microsoft development environment, which I know we're going to get hate mail, is really good. I'm sorry, it just is. It's just phenomenal.
Yep. I mean, I have to agree. I mean, look what they've done. Look at the lengths they've gone to with VS Code and GitHub alone just to try to make it so.
Right.
To say nothing for the actual applications, right?
Right. I mean, granted, I feel your pain if you're supporting like an ancient ASP app. I get you. I will buy you a beer, right, or some chamomile tea, whichever you need. The reality of their modern tooling is I think undeniable, unless you're just a partisan. This so they were kind of shady at Build, right? They're calling it the Volumetrics API.
Volumetric API.
Oh, I'm sorry, Volumetric API. It looks because I had the HoloLens. I never bothered to put the down payment on the device, but I had the HoloLens preview dev kit because I kind of shilled out and was like, hey, Jupyter Broadcasting. It looks awfully familiar from what they showed in the demo. Like, did they basically take what I thought was a truly impressive device, the HoloLens, but too expensive, and port that to the Quest, which I don't know, right? Like everybody else in tech, I'm kind of looking for my next thing. I don't think there's a lot of room for the little guys in AI. I think your assessment there was accurate. In fact, even your good friends at The Verge are basically like Google's whole presentation was don't even try it, startups, right? We're going to drown you in the cradle.
Yep. And Sam's also said something similar in an interview. He said something like, don't compete with OpenAI because we're going to bury you.
Right. I wouldn't even and I thought about putting OpenAI Alice on the OpenAI ChatGPT store, and I'm like, why? seriously why. It's such a I can't express how disappointed I was when I made that integration, and basically I threw some marketing money at it, and the responses were just a bunch of looky-loos, and even the few folks who did become customers, I ended up just selling them the classic stuff that we do, not the newfangled AI. And it costs. Every interaction with their API costs you money. Right, and you have caps, and it's got to be careful about rate limiting. It's really kind of a pain in the butt.
Right.
So,
and with this meta, now I'm not like super sold on this. I'm just kind of looking at the possibilities here, and thinking with this Horizon OS announcement, and as somebody who owns a couple of Quest 2s for the kids, and I myself have the Quest 3,
right,
I can tell you there's something there. There really is, truly, especially when you do the pass-through mode. I always, before I bought the device, I thought the killer feature would be cool VR rooms where I could pretend like I'm somewhere else in a giant room. And that is neat sometimes, like when I'm taking a meeting. I'll take a meeting from a space station just because that's funny. But the way I prefer to use the headset is in pass-through mode, because I can see the kids, I can see the dog, I can see the wife, and we can, I can interact with people. And it's cool as hell to have like giant screens in my physical space. It's actually really a neat use. If Microsoft gets on board with that, I just think the Vision Pro is so relegated to high-end content consumption. Microsoft says they're looking for developers that produce or provide plugins for 3D Windows desktop applications, or customers that work with 3D applications on the Windows desktop applications who are interested in extending those applications into 3D content with mixed reality, which is what I'm talking about, the AR stuff. They've done the work here, like you were saying, with the HoloLens. They just got to bring the best of that and modernize it a bit and bring it over to whatever the Horizon platform is.
Yeah, like frying some, I forgot where they are in Washington.
Redmond,
Washington bacon here. It seems super likely that this volumetric API is just a version of the HoloLens APIs because of how long it's been. It's been years, and, Moore's Law, right? The Quest can be cheap. I don't know if we talked about this yet, but they're creating an Xbox bundle of the Quest that comes with a special controller paired and blah, blah, blah. It's a Quest 3. I think I'm just going to get that when it comes out and use my Quest 2 as a dev machine. I'm going to give this a shot. I mean, I just signed up for the preview, and I didn't get like any special access, though I will be harassing a couple people I know at Microsoft right after the show. Because $3,500 is a horse pill, right? But this seems like a baby aspirin. I think companies will buy these, and I think they'll buy them. It'll take a little while, but this is an opportunity to be early. And, my trick, right, when I was 19 years old was be early. Everybody thought iOS was a joke. So maybe I'm wrong. Put it to you this way. It's easy to gamble $500 than it is to gamble $3,500, right?
Coder.show/membership. Thank you, everybody who becomes part of our Coder QA crew. This is a totally audience-funded show right now. No sponsors. You're keeping us on the air. We have one new member sign up. So thank you to Joe R., who became a member. A couple of you also upgraded to Jupiter Signal memberships. We appreciate you. The Darth Jar Jar promo code survives with, I think, 5 more redemptions, 5 or 10. I don't authorize these things. But our numbers have kind of been crappy for May. Crappy. So we're going to extend the Darth Jar Jar promo code to take $1 off your membership forever. No. It's a year. Do not slip that in there. I saw that. I saw what you did. Get out of here with that. It's $1 off for a year. I mean, right now, things are tough. You guys can't be slipping that in there, but it applies to new members and existing members. Or if you want to renew an expired subscription. We hit the redemption limit last week, and so they popped a few more in there without checking with me. I go down for a nap, and they do these things, but I do appreciate you signing up and supporting the show. We could really use it right now. We are definitely in a particularly bad ad winter for Coder Radio. Definitely the longest and most prolonged in this show's history. And this show's been around a long time. But it seems like the focus of advertisers has honestly shifted to YouTube for the particular type of demographic that the show goes after, which would be like the DevOps and developer and, informed consumer as far as the advertiser is concerned. They're right now, with budgets limited, they just find YouTube to be a superior platform. I think they're wrong, and they'll eventually come back around is what I'm hoping. But my hope is that the show can survive in the meantime. Of course, you can also send a boost. That's another great way to support each production individually. Thank you, everybody who goes to coder.show/membership to sign up. And don't forget, you've got that Darth Jar Jar promo code to take $1 off a month for a year and contribute to the show directly. Coder.show/membership. So, Microsoft has unveiled Copilot Plus PCs with, quote, generative AI capabilities baked in. They've also announced partnerships with AMD, Intel, Qualcomm, Acer, Asus, Dell, HP, and Lenovo, who will also be producing either parts or PCs called Copilot Plus PCs. And I guess you can think of Copilot Plus as sort of a minimum quality branding. Copilot Plus PCs require at least 40 TOPS of NPU performance, at least 16 gigs of RAM, and at least 256 gigs of storage.
I'm sure Dell and HP are so happy about that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, they're trying to be like, I guess the Surface version, Microsoft's version, starts at $999.
Okay.
16 gigs of RAM isn't really very much for an AI PC. No, let's be real.
Make that like 32.
Make it at least maybe more likely 96 if you can.
Well, and you've got all the weight of Windows. So
yeah. Now also we've got a Snapdragon X version, which is claiming to be 58% faster than an M3 MacBook, claiming 22 hours of video playback, 15 hours of web browsing using this Snapdragon X Elite Copilot PC. They say they got a new Rosetta, or like kind of like a Rosetta style update thing where it'll run some x86 apps at near native speed.
Visual Studio?
I don't know. I was catching it on the stream.
It's the only one anyone listening to this really cares about.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see with the Visual Studio and how any of that actual compatibility works. But they're pushing hard. They say they've built a new compiler for Windows ARM, a new kernel, a new scheduler, along with that x86 translation layer. And they're coming right at the MacBook Air M3, right at it, right straight between the.
And they should.
Yeah, they should.
Seriously, the MacBook Air is it's expensive, but if you think about it, it's not, especially for like your general business person computer. It's stupidly good.
I have done a lot of flying in the last 3 months, and I definitely saw Windows PCs or laptops, but man, it's just the MacBooks have taken over everywhere, especially when people are out working in the airport. So many MacBooks, so many iPhones, so many AirPods. All these people that are dressed up on like their business suits in first class, almost all exclusively are on MacBooks. There's a few that are still on Windows PCs for sure, but that's just not how it was even just a few years ago.
I forgot to mention to you, I had my HP Dev 1 in Newark Airport.
Right. Oh,
and son of a bitch, someone walked right up to me. It was early o'clock in the morning, so I don't know why this dude was, this chipper. But he's like, "Is that Papa Wes?" And I said, "Get out." I said, "You got to be kidding me. This is I thought maybe it was like a joke, like a random listener, like whatever." And he was just telling me that he bought one. He has a Lemur Pro, and he's a Apple convert. They're there. I'm just saying, your people are out there. They're in the airport.
Tell them to listen to the show.
I did, actually. I was a complete whore.
Good for you. Oh, good.
You know what? He's got to be a wise man because he was taking the red eye. There are never delays on the red eye.
That's true. Okay, so, with all this new Copilot Plus horsepower, all the tops you can do with that, because now they all have MPUs built into them, there's new features, including a sketch-along feature that's rolling out in Windows, summarize this document type stuff right there in the prompt for your documents on Windows PC, and the new controversial feature that everybody's talking about right now, a new feature called Windows Recall, and I'll let Satya describe it to us.
How do we introduce memory, right? Photographic memory into what you do on the PC. And now we have it. So it's called Recall. It's not keyword search, right? It's semantic search over all your history. And it's not just about any document. We can recreate moments from the past, essentially.
Here's how it works. Windows constantly takes screenshots of what's on your screen, then uses a generative AI model right on the device, along with the NPU, to process all that data and make it searchable, even photos. I got to try it out. I searched brown leather bag.
This is Joanna Stern.
It came up in visual search. There's no place on this page that it says brown leather bag. It just knows because it sees this brown leather bag. There could be this reaction from some people that this is pretty creepy. Microsoft is taking screenshots of everything I do.
Yeah, I mean, that's why that it can only do it on the edge, right? So this is like, you have to put two things together. This is my computer. This is my recall, and it's all being done locally.
I just find it fascinating that this is what they went to as soon as they had the local capabilities, because this isn't anything new. Like, when you go to a restaurant and they've got those ketchup bottles now that you can't see through, you immediately start suspecting that they're just like draining other ketchup bottles all into that ketchup bottle and claiming it's new ketchup. That's what's happening with this image recognition. Like, we've had image classification for years now, and anybody that uses Google Photos knows it's been getting really good. They're just doing it with screenshots now. And where does Microsoft go as soon as they get the capability of classifying images on device? Let's go to recording everything you do on your computer.
I mean, does anybody really want this?
Lawyers would love this, I think. Lawyers would love to have this.
It's weird that we psychically connected there, Chris. I was like, this sounds like a nightmare to me.
Yeah, really, dude. I mean, could you imagine in Discovery if you could go back and play the computer back in time? This also reminds me of a feature that Apple had, the time machine feature, where it'd go into like this crazy galaxy animation and like you'd zip through time like a time traveler to recover a file. Microsoft's just also rehashing that. Again, it's just like they're bottling old wine into a new bottle here, and they're telling us it's new wine, and they're taking old ketchup and putting it into an opaque bottle and telling us it's new ketchup.
Yeah, so they learn from their cousins at Apple, right? That's what Apple does. Here's features other people have released, but we smooth out some of the edges.
The reason why I played the whole clip there is Satya does say we can only do this because it's on device. What do you think about that? Does that make it okay that it's all local?
I think he had to say that. I think if he didn't say that, all the tech press, which, by the way, they're going out of business at a rate that's like faster than, lemurs going off a cliff. But all the remaining tech press would be hammering them for privacy. And that Apple is going to come out in white robes on, like a pope, right?
Yeah, it's all on device, on device.
Although I hear spicy, saucy rumors that Apple's going to just buy their way into this, get a deal with good old OpenAI.
Oh, sure. Oh, I'm sure they'll have to punt.
Google's fighting to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look how much everything they do with Siri is basically punted off device, too.
Well, it first of all, Siri can't play a freaking song in my car, so I feel like this is I don't know. My fear here. So I'm gonna try this volumetrics API stuff. I think if they give me access, I'll do a Skunkworks project. I'm super scared that this is going to be another adventure where I lose tens of thousands of dollars. Because it feels that way, doesn't it? Like it's got.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the upshot is that Meta is more in the driver's seat for this one than Microsoft is, and Meta's really bet the whole farm on this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you could even, you eventually could bail on the volumetric API and just do something directly on device, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, okay, so because the Meta headsets are powered by Android, so is this building off of Xamarin/Maui? Is that? I
mean, that's a possibility, but it didn't seem like that from what we get. But it's so early. They're only, if you could get in the developer preview, you could answer that kind of question. That's for sure.
Well, because Maui's gone nowhere fast, right?
Yeah, you take the HoloLens stuff, you take a little Maui, bring it together. Now it's something brand new for the AI VR metaverse era. New stuff bottled in, old stuff bottled into new bottles. That's really the theme, isn't it? Oh, man. I don't know. I out of all of this, I do think those VR headsets at least have some potential, having used them. Let's talk about, I don't really want to get into it very much, but since our last episode, it seems like there's been some sort of house cleaning happening at OpenAI. Key people that have been there for like sometime since the very beginning have left. One of those individuals spoke to the press, Daniel Kotajoa, I think. I'm not sure how you say his name. He reported that he lost 85% of his family's net worth for not signing the non-disparage agreement. It turns out that OpenAI had a non-disparagement agreement where if you spoke out against the company, they could claw back all of your investment. Well, Vox covered that and reported on it. And then Sam came out and said it was an accident to put a clause that could cancel equity if they said something I don't like. My bad, he says, my bad. And they're going to take that out.
Yeah.
But if the journalist hadn't blown the whistle on it, it would still be in there. It just happened to accidentally get in there. Pretty big clause about you say something bad about us at any point, indefinitely, no expiration, and we get to claw back your equity.
Just hypothetically, imagine if we had this for the YouTube and Reddit comments. Like we get to find them. Forget ads, we just find them every time they troll us.
You know, people left citing disagreements with OpenAI leadership, saying it's not on the right trajectory, that safety wasn't being taken seriously.
This is kind of you come at the king, you better not miss, right? You knew this was going to happen. They tried to do a coup, right? Ilya tried to do a coup. A bunch of the rest of them, he was going to get rid of them.
That's what I was thinking. Is there had to be some house cleaning, and he had some sort of snarky tweets.
And honestly, I think if folks were being fair. I mean, not that I want to be super fair to Mr. Altman, but, you know, if somebody tried to do a coup on one of us, I'm sure we would get rid of them. I mean, I don't see a world where, like, I'm sitting here like Patience on a monument forgiving people. I would be like, okay, I'll wait 90 days, right? Like,
I think I probably agree with you. It's just some of the weirdness around some of these people's departures and then this disparagement clause and then pretending like you didn't know it was there. I just don't buy that. But the thing that I think was more revealing than any of that was this whole thing that went down with Scarlett Johansson. I mean, we talked about it last week that the voice sounded a lot like ScarJo.
It was the Black Widow, yep.
And, ScarJo found out. Now, ironically, people have taken ScarJo's letter about this and played it back in an AI that sounds a lot like her to explain what's going on. And I just thought that was pretty funny.
Last September, I received an offer from Sam Altman, who wanted to hire me to voice the current ChatGPT 4.0 system. He told me that he felt that by my voicing the system, I could bridge the gap between tech companies and creatives and help consumers to feel comfortable with the seismic shift concerning humans and AI. He said he felt that my voice would be comforting to people.
Isn't that weird? It does sound a lot like her, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's not even necessarily the Sky voice. They did pull it down after she released this letter. I guess supposedly he approached her last September, asked her if they could use her voice. She said no. Then I guess they more recently tried to contact her, and she had not gotten back to them in time. And then this announcement came out. Now she's talking about, you know, legal fights and supporting regulation. And the reality is that I think it was her voice, and Sam Altman's on record just really kind of having a thing for the whole movie.
The number of things that I think her got right that were not obvious at the time, like the whole interaction model with how humans are going to use an AI, this idea that it is going to be this like conversational language interface, that was incredibly prophetic and certainly more than a little bit inspired us.
I mean, it sounds like he wanted to use ScarJo's voice regardless of what she said. And now it's going to really flare up this whole fight between the creatives and the AI industry and copy protection and trademark, and really just put their foot in it.
This was a little bold, right?
Yeah, he wanted a hit. And then he claims that the voice, this is in a statement from Sam, he says the voice of Sky is not Scarlett Johansson. Never intended to even resemble hers.
No. And it has nothing to do with that film, Her, right? Which, by the way, I don't know if Mr. Altman has seen the entire film. Kind of ends bad.
Yeah. And then he says, but out of respect, we've paused using Sky's voice in our products.
I can translate that for you. On the advice of our counsel, we've paused the use of her voice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this reveals a little bit of how Sam operates.
Well, remember, again, Sam, not the aw shucks Richard Hendricks boy that he might be portrayed as, used to run Y Combinator. Very entrenched in the Valley. Already a very rich man before he started this.
And the guy behind WorldCoin, which wants to scan your eyeballs.
Yeah, I thought that was done, though.
Yeah, it's only done in some areas, but it's still kind of, I don't know, it's just, which is an evil thing. Anyways, I point all this out because to me it seems like the tech industry has pinned their hopes on Sam Altman and OpenAI And then it kind of trickles down from there. And what Microsoft's come up with, it's interesting-ish, but I'm not going to use the Microsoft Sketch tool and have it sketch along with me. And, the funny thing about their capture utility, their recall thing, is that it's going to be riddled with screenshots of people's private and personal information. They say in there that if you use Edge in private mode, they won't capture that. And that if you're watching DRM'd content, they won't capture that. But they will capture everything else, and they'll capture everything in Firefox and Chrome. And if it's just it's bad overall for user security because if nothing else, you're going to have people sitting down at people's Windows computers that aren't properly secured, and they're just going to go through what everybody's been doing on their computers.
Well, or somebody gets hacked, and then it's like
the only thing of value that I really see that they're incorporating is like the summarize features. But even that, it sometimes misses important context when it summarizes. And none of them are really solving for hallucination before they're building these things in like this. They're building this in at the operating system level, at the application level, at the service level. And they're not solving for hallucinations. They're better than they used to be, and they're better than the smaller self-hosted stuff. But they still get it wrong sometimes. And they're just rolling it out. It's wild. And some of it's, some of it's like, okay, you're doing image recognition. Okay, we've been doing that for a little bit. All right, you've got really, really good text prediction, so you can, statistically guess what the next word should be and then produce a pretty accurate summary sometimes, but not always. Like, these are semi-useful features, and I use them on the daily, but I don't know if they're worth $50 billion, and I don't know if they're worth all of this investment in hardware and software. And it's, I just got back from Red Hat Summit, and Red Hat Summit was the same thing, all about AI at the enterprise level.
I feel like ever since the mobile app explosion and kind of the leveling out of that, they've been searching for the new hotness. We've been talking about this for almost 2 years now.
I think it goes further back, dude. The tech industry starts after 1971 when we start when the federal government starts managing the dollar more, when the Federal Reserve starts keeping an eye on the stock market, and then you see tech really take off around, the dot-com boom, and you saw this crazy investment that totally exploded. And since then, it has been one cycle after another because it's all a creation of Wall Street. When you think about real end users, a lot of this stuff's just thrust upon them. Like all these people have iPhones because they have to have a phone. Like the people that are using Windows computers, for the most part, are using Windows computers because they have to. It's not this utopia that they paint it out to be.
No, I don't think it is. I also don't think that. I don't know how to put this correctly, but we'll take a swing. When you have just a few big, glorious Soviet-style companies that control everything, you actually don't get, the new hot innovation. For example, I'm going to go back to my favorite hobby horse, the launch of the iPhone. In fact, I was studying ActionScript before that hit. Do we have to explain what action? I think we do, don't we? Because, yeah.
Stay a while and listen.
Gather round. So there used to be this company called Adobe that, believe it or not, was actually a big force in software development at the time. And they had this product called Flash that they had bought from a company called Macromedia. Yes, I know you don't know what that is, kids. Well, they had this programming language called ActionScript, which, how would you describe it, Chris?
So I guess it's like if you knew Flash, this was sort of like a scripting language that could execute things using the Flash runtime.
Right. It was almost like I would say the closest modern comparison is TypeScript. Right.
Yeah,
it was meant to be like a nicer JavaScript with classes and things like that. And they had this platform called Flash, but they had this other platform called Adobe Air. Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
I like how you're laughing because
It's just, it just reminds me now a little bit of like, we have Flutter, which is not it's not an equivalence. I'm not trying, but it's.
So, at the time, if you were up in, let's say, Manhattan, working like I was, or trying to start out, I was basically doing Java applets for folks, which was even then like an ancient technology. Every wise agency owner or like older person you met that knew what they were doing would say, you got to get into Adobe Air, man. All desktop apps are going to be Adobe Air. All applications, they can run on the browser. Technically, it wasn't like Electron, but fundamentally, the idea, the practical end use was like it's basically Electron. except it very importantly was not HTML5 and JavaScript. It was ActionScript running on the Flash platform, which Adobe Air was like the desktop rep version of that.
Yep.
Well, then a little company called Apple, which was like, right back then, their big thing was the iPod. And I had a click wheel iPod, and I had that thing for years because it was a tank. You could drop it. I mean, that thing did not break.
Yeah, but they were firmly a consumer a fairly successful, although success would be redefined after the iPhone, but at the time, a seemingly successful consumer electronics product company.
Yeah, right. And at this time, I'm running like Ubuntu 9.04 or like 8.10. I don't remember which one. Everything was brown. Right. It was the UPS operating system. Literally, I went to Barnes and Noble. There's like rows of. I don't think like younger folks will understand how just preeminent Flash was. Right. Like seriously, the computer's like, oh, you have that on the soundboard.
Yeah, I got the Ubuntu.
That's amazing. The African operating system that's really from Britain. So, yeah, I'm studying ActionScript, and then just by happen chance, I end up getting into iPhone development. But all that Air momentum, all that ActionScript momentum ended overnight. Steve Jobs just came out and said, yeah, there's no Flash on the iPhone. That's it.
We had to really kind of refigure out how to deliver video on the web. I remember YouTube was a Flash platform. Do you remember, Barry, that?
Everything, you couldn't open the videos on the iPhone browser anymore. It was a wild time.
And then the Android products, some of the Android vendors would lean in on the fact that they supported Flash.
Oh yeah, Air built in, like they'd have the Adobe logo on the box.
They'd advertise it, yeah.
Oh man, those were the days. But my point being is that was an inflection point that if you asked all the smart people in the industry, no one would have predicted. It was crazy to take the bet.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, people laughed at it quite literally.
I got laughed out of a room. I tried to get a job. I won't say the name, although they've subsequently changed their name, but at a big digital agency in New York as a developer, because they had hired me multiple times as a kid, and they were paying me decent rates. Not because they wanted to, but because two of their biggest clients demanded an iPhone app. And they didn't want to risk another vendor coming in and being able to snake the larger contract, which you'll love this. Their real bread and butter was selling them SEO, which also is going to be killed by all this AI stuff, right? So I tried to say, well, just hire me. I'll be, I'll be your iPhone developer. Because at the time, iOS apps were pretty simple, right? Can you make a table view with a list of and then you click on a thing and you go to a detail page? They didn't believe in it. They were so adamant that this was a fad. I remember the lady that I reported to as a contractor, like, had a very nice big sister conversation with me, like, you need to get out of this.
Oh yeah,
because this iPhone thing is going nowhere.
Oh yeah,
and she's like, I'm never giving up my BlackBerry.
I had similar experiences trying to encourage clients and places I worked to incorporate Linux. For database jobs or file server jobs or print server jobs or proxy server jobs or, these types of things where Linux could just snap right in. I definitely think there's a period of my career where I didn't get as far as I could have because I was the Linux guy in everybody's eyes. And the idea is that it was a fad, that the adults in the room like IBM and SCO and others were going to come in and just sort of, wipe Linux out. Then of course then they started SCO fell, IBM became a Linux company. It just sort of, it's funny how it just went the opposite direction, but they were so convinced. So was the Microsoft reps. And I was the kid saying that I think this Linux stuff, I think we should implement this. It's going to solve some problems, save us some money. It's funny how that kind of stuff works. You got to be at the right age. Can't be too old. Can't be too young.
Can't be too old, right? Like it's harder for me. Like I'm really thinking of losing another $40,000 on this volumetric API. But it's harder for me to take those kind of risks.
Yeah.
Yep. So
yeah, and also it's like you have more of an established view and things that have worked and haven't worked, and so I think there's something to being young and malleable and recognizing something that's kind of a game changer that people that have been around a bit longer can't seem to see as easily.
I don't know a good way to say this, but when you're young and you're like a bachelor or a single gal, and you don't really have any responsibilities, you can take crappy deals to build up.
Yeah.
But when you're older, it would be hard for me to take a break-even deal on the Quest right now, just to get in there, because I have other projects or other clients I could do work for that are profitable.
Right.
And I've got blended family. We got 3 kids between us. It's tough. Where back in the day, I was just happy if somebody bought me lunch.
Ask not what your podcast can boost for you, but what you can boost for your podcast.
I was going to say, Crashmaster got you lunch, 25,000 sats.
Oh, hell yeah, he did.
Great show again. He says, I had a new Pixel 8 set up, and I forgot to get my Podverse boost name. Podverse on Android is now slowly getting better, by the way. Here's helping survive the ad winner. Thank you very much, Crashmaster. We appreciate that. Mr. Dominic, when I was in El Salvador, I bought breakfast with the boost.
Did you really?
It was a row of ducks.
Oh.
It was just a row of ducks at 2,222 sats. I got an orange juice and a muffin.
There you go.
It's very exciting.
Very exciting.
Adversary 17 comes in with 10,000 sats. Hey, yo. Oh, and speaking to your ISP problem, the ISP problem is really annoying. Up by me, I really only have a single option of Comcast. Same
I'm so
here.
Sorry.
Oh. AT&T has service, but it's 5 megabits DSL, which is, that's just not usable. We're waiting on residential fiber to be installed. It's been promised since 2014. I will say just this past winter in December, they did bore fiber through my neighborhood and my backyard. The distribution box is actually in my backyard. There hasn't been anyone to hook it up since. I'm still waiting. Yeah, that's my situation too here at the studio. The studio is a townhouse and it's in a housing community that's like 3 blocks. And the furthest block away from me, so the other side of the housing community, they have brought fiber into those houses. And that was about a year or 2 ago, and they haven't taken it any further.
Wow.
And I'm paying I want to say it's more than $350 a month for business Comcast. 300 megabytes down, I think 30 megabits up. It's 300 megabits down, 30.
I don't want to remind you what I have.
This ISP stuff in the States is so bad. Every time I talk about this, I always hear from a listener that lives in a country that seems to have not managed to been completely locked down by monopolies.
Some StarCraft pro from South Korea who's like, it's $15. Yeah. I have 3 gigs, 3 megs up, 3 gigs up, 3 gigs down.
Yeah. We didn't have a lot of boosts. We had 3 boosters. We stacked 36,000 sats. I think this is the audience's way of saying take the summer off. Right? That or last episode was really bad.
Could have been that.
Could be that. Could have been that. But they're saying, guys, you've earned it. We take the summer off. We come back in September, and they've missed us. Right? That's what they're saying with 3 boosts. 3. We did have some people pick up memberships, but not a lot in the last couple of weeks. Memberships are an option too, or you could boost each production. We do love those messages. And if you got a little value or entertainment, or I made you think about something from listening, consider sending us a boost and telling us about it. You can get a new podcast app at newpodcastapps.com. Fountain has made it really easy with Strike integration. You also can boost from the Fountain.fm website, just using something like the Cash App or Strike, and you don't have to switch podcast apps. Either way, we appreciate it, and thank you very much for boosting in. And thanks to the 3 boosters. You know what you get? Round of applause. Look at you. Yeah, you and you. That's pretty great. Mr. Dominic, before we get out of here, is there anywhere you'd like to send the good folks?
Find me on Twitter at Dumanuko, and if you need some automation or data migration stuff, go to alice.dev.
There, I made you a jingle. Do you like it?
I love it.
Yeah. You can find me on the Twitter, I suppose. I don't know. Chris Elias over there. I'm also at chriselias.com. I want to say, hey, why don't you consider joining us next Tuesday? I think we're going to be live next Tuesday, right? Regular week?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, unless we take the summer off. But anyways, we'd love to have you join us live. You can you can do it. You can. Yep, you sure can. Coder.show/live. We do it Tuesdays at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Come hang out, help us title this thing, join us in the chat room. Tell us when we're wrong in real time, that kind of stuff. It's always kind of fun. Gives the show a nice energy, too. So that's Tuesdays, coder.show/live. Love to have you there. Links to what we talked about today, and there's some good ones over there. That's coder.show/571. Wow. sneaking up on that 600. Sneaking up on it. Will they make it? Who knows? Definitely not if they take a summer break. It's going to take forever. We know that. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode. We'll see you right back here next week. Probably. It could be summer break.